Speak it out and sing it loud. Speak it out and sing it loud. Welcome, everyone. This is Arlene from Adelante with Arlene, and today I am so excited. You will be watching our first episode of Speak It Out and Sing It Loud. Today I'm excited because I have two wonderful guests coming on the show today a little later. I wanted to first let you know what Speak It Out and Sing It Loud is all about. Well, this came into my heart to do as a result of me being in the presence of God and praying, as you all know, about my Christian walk. I felt it just jump into my spirit and say, speak it out, sing it loud. Speak it out means that whomever I have on the show will be speaking out their experiences, maybe their opinions. I wouldn't call them per se, I guess, their truth according to their experiences, because you all know that to me, ultimate truth is the Word of God. So I'm excited because I'm going to allow them to share their experiences, their journey, which is so incredible, in order to empower others, encourage others. It doesn't matter whether it's a musician, a DJ, an entrepreneur. All in all, Speak It Out stands for speak it out, share your experience, and encourage another. Sing it loud, as you all know, is me. And since I cannot sing songs because of copyright, all that problemas, I will just go, I'm singing it loud, something or another. So in a few minutes, I will have my two guests. And today we will be speaking on a woman's topic. But I do not want the men to turn off to this, because in every man's life, there should be a sister. Oh, well, there's a mother. And then there is a girlfriend, a daughter, or a granddaughter. So it's very important that men start learning about the myths and the truths in regards to the topic we are about to speak. So let's bring the ladies on. Welcome to Speak It Out and Sing It Loud. I am excited. We finally are doing this, ladies. Yes. So I wanted to introduce, as I mentioned in the intro, these two wonderful ladies. I told you back history on how I met them. So first we have Yvette Nieves. Yvette, wave at the people. And
Hi,
then there
everybody.
Then there is Kathleen Garcia.
Hi.
So today we are going to be, as I mentioned earlier, speaking about a very sensitive topic that is prevalent for all women, but helpful to men as well. Yeah. So the topic will be, go ahead, Kathleen, let them know what's the topic.
Menstruation and menopause.
That's right. Menstruation and menopause. Kathleen mentioned to me that menopause would be a good idea, a good topic to discuss. And then I was speaking to Yvette, and Yvette and I felt that the menstruation was important as well, as so it is the actually journey of a woman's life. Exactly. So I wanted to open and be brief in regards to getting right into it. And I did share some personal stories, and they with me separately on the phone with Yvette and with Kathleen. So I wanted to start with the menstrual cycle, and I wanted to start with Yvette. Yvette, we did speak about certain things that we went through, which we're going to talk about today. Yes. Can I ask you about what age did you first get your menstrual cycle?
So I was 11 when I got my first menstrual cycle at the age of 11.
And I know that 11, I got it at 12. How about you, Kathleen?
10.
What? Yeah. Wow. And I thought that 12 was an issue. Now, Kathleen, I want to start with you because yours was 10. Kathleen, what was your experience? 10 years old, we're still children, tell me about it.
Okay. Well, it was definitely traumatic. Even though I was prepared, I had that long talk with my mom. I knew it was coming, but didn't know it was coming that soon. So it was traumatizing. And then, of course, you share with like one friend, and then they share with everybody else. And so I was known as like that person. I was made fun of. I was called names. They tried to make me more grown than I already was.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really traumatic actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
You see,
Wow.
I'm this. This is the reason, ladies, we're talking about this. One would never know. I mean, this is something that we understand is a natural passage, way of life for women, but we never really speak about how traumatic it could be. And later on, we're going to disperse some of these myths and these perceptions that others have, friends of ours that could be females, as well as the male, friends of ours, because it is a life-changing good. We know that it's going to be good for later, but at that moment in the young mind, it is pretty traumatic. How about you, Yvette? How did you experience it?
So I was 11, and unlike Kathleen, I was not prepared. My mom had not spoken to me about it. So it was scary and traumatic. I actually thought there was something wrong with me because I had no idea. And it wasn't until the day that it happened that my mom had that conversation with me. And then I guess I was able to understand to the degree, the level that an 11-year-old could understand what was happening to me. So it was scary, it was traumatic, and it was confusing. It was very, very confusing for me. I wonder sometimes if maybe my mom had prepared me at a younger age, it might not have been as frightening, but she hadn't had that conversation with me literally until that day. So, and then to kind of process the physical things that were happening to me, the emotions that I was experiencing, and at the same time trying to understand what my mother was telling me, I think was difficult. It was a challenge because there was so much going on at such a young age and trying to put it all together. So, yeah.
For me, it was also extremely frightening. I don't recall even having a conversation, honestly, about it. I know I ran to my mom, and I was just scared about the evidence of what was occurring. So she calmed me down. I was literally shaking. I was 12 years old. She calmed me down. She said it was going to be okay. I'm pretty sure she told me a few things that I can't remember or couldn't even really process. But what would you say? What would you advise any mothers or any guardians at this moment to do in a maybe a better way at this time that we're in a more modern world to introduce the subject of menstruation to your little girls? What would you say? Kathleen, let's start with you.
Well, exactly what I do is my girls already, they know. I started talking to them very early on because I don't want it to be something where it's scary. I don't want them traumatized. I don't want them to have the same experience that I did. So they are prepared. They're as prepared as they can be, way more than I was prepared. And I don't think they're afraid. And even if they are afraid for that minute where it's like, oh my God, what's happening? My voice is going to come back and they're going to be like, oh, okay, all right, I know what this is. We're okay.
How about you, Yvette?
So I have boys, but I have nieces. And so I do think about that. And I think having experienced the way I experienced, my advice to moms would be to do exactly what Kathleen said, start early and explain it in a way where in terms that are applicable and understandable, comprehensible to a young child. So in a way that when they experience it, they have an idea where they can better understand what they're going through, especially I think today with so much that they see on the internet and on social media. I definitely think that moms should have that conversation with their daughters early and use terms that they can understand early on, or even visuals. I know with my son, I know it's a little different, but I introduced, because it's a more, difficult topic, I introduced a book that would help him. So even if it's a book written for a teenager, a young teen, that can kind of help them visualize and understand before they go through it.
I would have liked to have understood better the actual biological aspect of it.
And I
Because
think
of,
that you can,
yeah,
you know,
I think that school back then, when they did sex ed, it was just something that would make us cringe. And my age, I'm 58, and make us uncomfortable. And we
Yeah.
couldn't ask the appropriate questions we wanted to
Right.
ask. And we were very, very embarrassed, you know? Now, what were some of your experiences physically in your body, Yvette, that you felt when you started having your menstrual cycle?
So unfortunately for me, my menstrual cycles have been very severe from the beginning. I suffer from the menstrual cramps. They're very heavy. My periods are very heavy. So it's definitely, I go through a lot of physical. I mean, there have been times when I've had to call out of work because the pain, you know, the cramping has been so severe, and the menstrual flow has been so heavy. So it's definitely not pleasant for me, and I cannot relate to those women who don't have very heavy menstrual cycles and don't experience the physical pain and that I experience. I can't relate to that because mine have been from the beginning always very heavy. I did come to learn as I got older, I was diagnosed with anemia. And so it seems that doesn't help, or that contributes to the way that my menstrual cycles are every month, the doctor said. And until I actually experience menopause, then my anemia won't get better. So, so I think there's some kind of correlation there, at least for me.
Kathleen, how about yourself?
From the beginning, it was always the severe cramping. I remember missing many days of school because of it. And again, that was just another reason for people to like point me out and see how I was different. Taking big horse pills of ibuprofen just to get me through the hump of the pain. But then what changed was after I had children, it's definitely not as bad as it was.
You know, Kathleen, that's exactly what my mother said and what my mother experienced. After she had me and then my sister, things changed for her and wasn't as painful. She did experience what I experienced, rather I experienced what she experienced, of having that severe cramping. I mean, like really bad. So I had a lot of bad cramping. I had a lot of times I couldn't go to work. I couldn't go to work. I couldn't function.
Exactly.
I was very embarrassed at 12 in school and concerned because back then tampons weren't as frequently used. It was more pads.
Yes.
And when they did introduce tampons, I never felt secure about it. And right now I'm glad that during the beginning of that tampon era, that they were just made in a different form. I'm glad I never did use them, because we know now that things have improved in regards to that and in the materials that are being used, but I never wanted to use it. So I too was embarrassed. I too felt really sick. I felt very weak. And I had to take a lot of pills in regards to prescription medication to try to alleviate the cramping. When in reality, I'm not against medication, but I am against it when it came to this in my life. After a time when you're taking those kind of higher intensity anti-inflammatories, let's say higher grade, they can mess with your stomach, you know, and with your digestive system. So honestly speaking, for me, I learned much later on in life, and I mean much later, like literally in my 40s, that my diet was very important during the time of my menstrual cycle. Did you crave when you had your menstrual cycle anything in particular food wise? Did you crave, Yvette, anything?
Chocolate.
Isn't that something?
Yes. Yes. And I never eat chocolate. It's just, I'm not really a sweet person eater, but yes, yes. During my menstrual cycle, I definitely have a craving for chocolates.
And there is, I think, a scientific proof that there is a correlation with what certain, not so much the milk chocolate, but the dark chocolate and how it helps you. How about you, Yvette? Was there anything in particular you, I mean, I keep saying Yvette. Take two. How about you, Kathleen? Was there anything that you craved for?
Yes, chocolate as well, but not actually during my cycle. It's the PMS before.
Oh,
Like I suffer
interesting.
very much with the PMS side of it.
See, let's talk about that, Kathleen, because that's another thing that is truth. You do have that PMS, that before the menstruation flow comes, there literally is something else that happens to us emotionally and physically. What did you experience, Kathleen?
Definite mood swings. That's a given. Cravings, but chocolate. But definitely feeling more tired. I don't have the energy that I normally do. You can tell the difference.
And Yvette, the same for you?
So I definitely knew when I was in that stage in the PMS because I would be very emotional. Like I would cry at the drop of a hat or a commercial. So I could feel that kind of lump in my throat all the time and that sadness. I also experienced the physical before the menstrual cycle where my breasts were very sore. They're very, very painful. Before it's, and then as soon as the menstrual cycle begins, that goes away. So I always kind of know when my breasts start feeling sore, when I feel like crying. I don't crave the chocolate until the menstrual cycle begins. So that doesn't happen to me. But those are the things that and as an adult or a young adult, I should say, not so much in my adolescence, which is ironic, but as a young adult, my early 20s, early 30s, I experienced the adult acne right around the time that I was about to menstrual cycle. So those kind of like, pimples on your face, the cystic like type pimples on your face. So yeah, it's definitely been traumatic for me since day one.
You see, this is why we want to talk about this. Many women that might be hearing this may be saying, well, yeah, that's what I feel. I felt the same. You're not telling me anything new. Well, the reason I wanted to share was because there was so much more that we grew up with, these myths, these stigmas, these words that were said to us by people on the outside. I'm not going to say even friends that did not understand my pain. Literally, when I was in my 20s, I had a friend that said, oh, get over it. I could do everything when I have my menstrual.
Wow.
But that's her. That wasn't my body.
Right.
And I think women do that to each other. And that is very insensitive.
Everyone is different. I agree.
And I also found the insensitivity. Now, this is not man bashing. This is to inform men. Men also were brought up in their culture to use words like, oh, she's on the rag.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Very bad
like that
things
either.
that they said, but they do said it then and they say it now. And the reason I found it was important to discuss this is because I too want to take responsibility and accountability for my own actions as a young woman, feeding into all that and reacting to it in the manner that I'm going to say now. You see, I learned that because I have a hormonal imbalance during that time and my emotions are up and down and my body's feeling very real things, it still doesn't give us the license to be mean and nasty. And I think many women, not all women, during the time of ignorance, as I was ignorant till I got older, I realized that I have to be responsible still for my reactions and my actions. And the reason I do not need to give a man a reason to say the things like, well, she's on her rag. No. I believe that there needs to be a better communication. I'll let you guys talk about that too, between you and your partner in regards to what you're feeling physically, so that they may learn to be a bit more understanding. I believe that young boys at appropriate time need to be taught about the sensitivity to women during this time and the difficulties and the need of help, because it can get you to a point that you can't get out of bed. It can get you to a point that your hands are shaky. You don't feel good in your belly, but you have to eat. It really can take a toll on you that you are incapable of doing the things that you normally do, and a brain fog, forgetting things, okay? So because I never had a child, I never gave birth to a child, I suffered till I was in my mid 40s with the menstrual cycle. That's a long time, ladies, from 12 to 45 when it started kind of disappearing, okay? I'm going to tell you that I am the happiest woman, now that I don't have it. Because it was like I had 2 weeks of feeling good a month, 1 week of feeling weird and extremely hungry, like a bottomless pit. It was the weirdest thing. Nothing I ate would satisfy me. And then the week at the end of the month would be the menstruation flow, at which point I couldn't eat anything, ladies. If I ate, my stomach would hurt me more and I would cramp more. I had to do more liquids. Mm-hmm. So tell me, do you believe that we have been fed these myths and these lies that have attributed sometimes to our feeling even worse than we already did? Tell me, Kathleen, what do you think?
I do feel that the way the generations before, like maybe not now, I think people are starting to understand a little bit better. Our generations are learning more. We're teaching more to our younger generation, but definitely previous generations, they always made comments about that. Oh, she must have her period. Why is she so moody? Or, oh, she's eating chocolate. She's going to be getting her period. Like, who are you to make comments like that? You don't know what my body's doing. That's not for you to say. Mm-hmm. So I find that frustrating. I've never liked comments like that. And I would never let my sons talk to any woman like that.
Mm-hmm. That's so important. How about you, Yvette? Also, because you have sons and you're a mama.
I agree. I think that the stigmas that are attached to what women are like when they are going through their cycle, definitely something from previous generations that should not exist today. And I, as a mother of 2 young sons, definitely would not want my sons to make those assumptions about women, especially when they are with their significant others, when that time comes, that they be more understanding and more compassionate of the changes that she is going through. Even though they don't experience them, they need to be empathetic to the person that they're with, or to any woman that they care about. They should never make those assumptions of what their personalities are going to be like or what they're going through, because it is something that we all experience, and you do want that understanding. And we definitely, like Kathleen said, I think we are teaching our younger generation earlier so that we can instill those beliefs in them early on, so that less women experience what we experienced with those assumptions that were attached to us.
Yes, and so that their friends also that may not be experiencing the same way your daughter or is feeling it, that they be more empathetic. And that's something that I believe that a lot of us have. I've always found this. We may have sympathy, but we don't have empathy. And you need to have empathy. You need to try to put yourself in their shoes so that you can help them, because everybody is different.
Absolutely.
I wanted to bring something else, that this is just my opinion. And my opinion is that I believe that we live in a generation when you go to the doctor and you let them know that you're feeling these cramps or the this and that, because I worked for doctors. First thing they would say to me is, oh, do you take such and such a brand thing over the counter to help you? Okay. I took whatever that was over the counter when I was a younger girl, and it gave me shakiness. It made me shake more. When I grew up and I learned that it actually had caffeine, which made no sense to have caffeine in a product for menstrual cramps. That's for headaches, mostly if you have like really bad migraines without needing medication, but not for the menstrual cycle. I feel that women need to be more proactive and better inform themselves when they go see their doctors, and be able to, when the doctor says take this, maybe have already suggestions of what they may either want holistically, naturally to take and get the okay from the doctor, or to maybe have another a little bit more detailed information to give their doctor, so the doctors could better prescribe something that later on in the long run isn't going to hurt something else. What do you feel about that, Kathleen?
I agree. I think there's other ways to go about this instead of just medication, first and foremost, because doctors are very quick to say, here, take this, you need this. But that's not necessarily true. And for me, I haven't learned all that as a young kid. I learned it as I'm older. I have my own children now. I like more of the holistic end. I'm not one for taking medication. So diet, exercise, all that is a big help. And I think women need to be empowered to know that they just don't have to run and take something, that there's other ways to deal with this.
How about you, Yvette? How did you maybe treat your menstrual cramps during that time?
Well, I'm not a fan of medication. And truthfully, there was nothing that really worked that was sold, whether it was a prescribed medication or an over-the-counter. So I was forced to research other ways to find relief for my discomfort. So I would recommend, and I'm a researcher in general, I'm always researching. That is my nature and my background. So I would always look at other ways and alternative methods anytime I was experiencing a situation. So particularly my suggestion to women would be to look at the other alternatives. Like Kathleen mentioned, there are other things that women can do besides taking medication. And the doctor, as being a medical doctor, will always choose the medication to suggest medication. But you don't necessarily have to take anything. And in my case, even if the doctor did suggest it, nothing worked. And I found that out early. So I was forced to research other ways to find comfort when I was experiencing my menstrual cycle.
Wow, ladies, I didn't find that out till much later in my life. I mean, my mom did give me teas, which to me worked very good. I like chamomile tea. I never liked the taste of chamomile tea. I'm gonna be honest with you, but I liked the way I felt, and it helped me during that painful time. I also learned, but much later on in my life, that for some of us, there might be inflammation. Therefore, I needed to take teas that were more for, anti-inflammatory, like a ginger, a turmeric, or whatever.
Yes.
Now, again, a disclaimer, I no longer even can take those teas because now I have a neurological disease that causes me not to be able to take the turmeric and or the ginger, which I love so much. So that isn't for everybody. Again, there are things that you can use naturally, but it's very important that you do your research with credible sites and also discuss it with your doctor, and have a doctor that's open to it, because my doctor is very open to it. He is never putting us right away, my husband and I, on a medication before allowing us the opportunity to work ourselves, our diet, and our exercise. Like, none of us, I don't know about you, want to do exercises when you have cramps. One thing I discovered when I started really working out in my 40s was that I had less or almost no cramps when I exercised 4 times a week and even went to the gym with my menstruation. Did any of you experience that with exercise? It's open season. None of you did? That's because we all don't feel good, so we don't want to move our body. But my suggestion doesn't mean go to the gym. My suggestion to the ladies listening out there is start doing, even in your pain, a little fast walking, literally in your living room.
Or just moving your legs.
Yes, movement. Because who wants to be gripped with that crampy pain when that blood flow of just doing some movement can really help you, really, really help you. So I want to move on now to the menopause because that's the next portion of it all. So I don't know. I'm going to start with Kathleen. what stage are you in? Pre or peri, as they call it, menopausal, or menopause?
Neither yet.
Ah, she's the young one.
Not young, but I am wondering what is coming for me. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. Every woman you talk to, it's something different. It's a whole nother experience. Some experience actually scare me. So I don't know
Yes.
what this is about. And it's almost like worrying about when you're going to get your first period. Because it's like, okay, well, what's going to happen to me? You don't know.
Well, I wanted to say that I think you and I had this conversation too, Kathleen, and I'm not, the person I'm about to mention isn't somebody that sponsors my show or any of the above or linked to me in any way. But I did learn something from Suzanne Summers many years ago, many mega years ago, that I hold to be true and understand better when I was in my 40s. And she always spoke about how the symptoms of menopause did not have to be whatever we might have thought or been taught it would be. For one, when I was a very young girl, I would overhear my dad talking to my mom about his eldest sister, who, when she had menopause, literally was not well and became mind confused. Now, I correlated the mind confusion and her not being well in her mind with the menopause, when in reality, it did not go together. It was like I thought that when I grew older, I was going to experience something possibly as horrible as that. What Suzanne Summers taught me was that does not have to be truth. None of that stuff is truth, because we're very individual.
Right.
And while there is a science that goes with it and a different, chemical make, whatever it is between biologically each woman, differently, it does not have to be that way. So I want to say to you, Kathleen, I am in menopause. I am 58 years old. And the worst experience I had was in about 2 years ago. I was in a movie theater, and when I went to the restroom, I didn't realize because I had pants and I didn't feel it. I was hemorrhaging
Oh my gosh.
profoundly.
That's scary.
Okay. I was shaking. Luckily, there was a girlfriend with me. My husband was sitting in the theater, of course. And I said, please help me. Please help me. And she had to give me paper. That was frightening. I was rushed to the hospital, where in the hospital during the time of emergency, I didn't have a full-fledged doctor, let's say this, which put fear to me and was already saying to me, well, this could be this, it could be that, it could be this. Okay. They might have to do this, like take, what is it? You may know this, Yvette, one of these.
Hysterectomy?
Exactly. Why are you telling this when you haven't even first of all, you're not an OBGYN or a GYN, and you don't even have a number of tests done on me before you can even say such a thing to me.
Right.
So I was quite frightened. I had just a few tests in the hospital. I stood hours till morning in the hospital till the bleeding had subsided. But I then found out that it was a fibroid.
Wow.
That I had for many years, which I had heard about when I was a teenager. Once again, never fully being informed of what could happen there, and also myself being young, not looking into it. You see, now we have a lot of bright young ladies. I'm not saying I wasn't bright, but a lot more that are more into finding out, studying, this and that about themselves and their body. Well, ladies, I ended up having to have part of it removed by a specialist, only part, because in order to get the other part of it, I would have to go into the hospital, et cetera, and they need a special machine for that. I want to tell you that was frightening. So that was the scariest moment I had in menopause. But it didn't really come because of the menopause. It was already there.
Right.
And that's why we spoke about the menstrual cycle, so that we understand that there are things you start recognizing in your body or learn about. It wasn't until I was about 40 that I went to New York for a bit, and I found out that I had endometriosis.
Oh, wow.
That's a big word.
Yeah.
So the ladies out there got to look it up, but it has to do with the lining, and And that's why, Yvette, I too was a very heavy flowed bleeding person that had to literally wear more than one garment and carry extra.
Right.
And as a result, I too became anemic at that moment. For me, it was associated with that. So ladies, so Kathleen, I want to tell you not to be scared of it, because you know your body better than anybody else. You're a mom and you know the changes you've already felt and gone through.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing I can tell you is that what we can learn from a menstrual cycle is this: you have the power to control those emotions by learning, as you have already, what to do and how to set yourself apart. And that self-care, that I don't like to really put too much self-care out there, but it is important. It's just that my self-care is incorporated with the self-love that God gave me, He gives me, and He gives you. So when we look at ourselves, we say we are creations of God. God made us so fearfully and wonderfully made. He gave you this reproductive system to carry life. And that's why I wanted to disperse this horrible stigma, because men, if the woman did not have what she's been gifted with, you would not have been born.
Yes, exactly.
Because everything that the woman has been made to do with the water and the blood, which is synonymous to what the Lord speaks about in His word, okay, about the rebirth, the being born again, per se, is water and the blood. And that is what we are covered in, the placenta and the blood, when we are in our mother's womb. So I just want you to stay encouraged, Kathleen, and know that you know better, and you're an intelligent, bright woman, and your mom's story, your sister's story, your aunt's story is not your story. Right. You have your own path, and you will learn what is good for your body, how well you can do. So what symptoms do I have? Well, I feel fatigued, but then when I think about it, at 20, I was fatigued. I was fatigued. I would go to a club and I'd be sleepy. You know, I don't know. I was always like, oh, I'm here, but you know, I want to be home. You know, my D3 changed because I got older and we're locked in, do a lot more. So I have to double up on that as per the doctor. My B12 had been low before; it's low now. Okay, so I take a supplement. So stay encouraged. Don't be afraid. You're sane. Everything's going to be fine. And you're going to be a happy girl when you don't have that flow no more.
Oh, I can't wait for that part.
How about you, Yvette? What do you have? Are you peri? Are you in menopause or?
So I am perimenopause. I am going to be 50 in July. So I am going through the perimenopause stage, and the only symptoms that I can attest to during this phase that I'm in right now is the night sweats. I suffer from night sweats, and not every night, not as frequent as, I'm not sure if they'll become more frequent as this stage progresses, but I have experienced the night sweats, which are very uncomfortable. And the hormonal deficiencies, and they were detected by my doctor that my hormonal levels are actually the only indicator for the doctor that I was in fact perimenopausal, was because the hormone levels were completely down, so low, almost zero, which told the doctor. So I have the lower deficiency in the vitamin D and some other pretty much everything. So that was the indicator where he could definitely tell me that I was in that stage. But other than that, what I was hoping for the changes in the menstrual cycle where they would not be as heavy or lighten or absent every now and then, which I was hoping for from what my mother describes me, which is exactly what you just mentioned. It's not my story. My mom, from what she had told me, I expected there to be months where it wouldn't come, or it wouldn't be heavier, it would be lighter. That's not happening to me.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, that's not happening to me at all.
Now this is interesting because I'm learning something right now.
Yeah, and I knew that from my mom, who actually went through menopause. Would have been 3 years ago for me. So, which is another thing that I thought that you get at the same time your mother gets it. Those are some of the things that I believed. You know, if your mom got it at 45, you're going to get it at 45. That didn't happen for me either. And my mom, from what I had heard, I expected the periods to be lighter and sometimes to be missing. And that hasn't happened. So the only thing that I've experienced during this phase is that I know that my hormone levels are very low, if not zero in some levels, and the night sweats that I've occasionally experienced, because that's not consistent either. But I have experienced that, where you have your own little, and there have been times where I'm having my own little personal summer and everyone else is cold and I'm having a personal summer around just me. So, but again, they're not consistent and they're sporadic. So, but they are indicators that I am in this phase.
Well, ladies, with me, there can't be an indicator about heat because I'm always hot. Anybody who ever knows me, doesn't matter how young I was, and I live in Florida now, I need to always be cold. My husband calls me a heat box. If ever you just touch my hand, the only time my hands were cold was, of course, if it was in New York City, you know, and you're outside, my hands would always be cold, or my feet, even in the house. But the rest of me does not get cold. I sleep all year round, even in New York, with a fan or an air conditioner.
Well, I do the same thing.
Me too.
So for me, heat won't be an indicator. I can tell you that I did have maybe some weird things happen. And I think there was maybe once in a blue moon, a little gushes of heat. I didn't sweat, but actually my ears felt hot. And I never felt heat like that in my ears. So I think I attribute that to the menopause. I think so. So ladies, before we close, what would, Kathleen, you advise any either moms or young ladies out there as we're having this conversation? What would you advise them?
To start talking to your children at an earlier age. Prepare them before it starts. Get them used to it. Talk to them on, not even just make it like a special time to talk. Talk to them on a regular basis. Talk to them, explain to them. Make sure that like they're not going to have that fear, the fear that we had, the trauma that we had.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it almost like a regular, like almost like an everyday thing. Like this is going to happen, and we talk about it on the regular. My girls are not afraid. They're totally prepared. They're ready. And that's what I feel like everybody should do. And even with your sons, prepare your sons no need to make comments like that. Explain to them how they can help a female who's going through it at that time. Have them be, as you said, empathetic. Do things for them. Help them. Go a little bit above and beyond during that time.
Yes. How about you, Yvette?
I agree. I think that moms need to start having these conversations. They may be difficult and unpleasant, but I think they need to be had early on. And I think moms need to explain the differences, because suppose you have more than one daughter, your daughter may experience a heavy period and the other daughter may not experience a heavy period. So I think that preparation and conversation communication is a key to make sure that young girls are ready and that they understand that this is natural and that it will be different. It's different for all of us, but it's okay, because that I think is a key. I'm what Kathleen said kind of resonates with me. You would never want a young girl to feel uncomfortable or different or excluded, stood out, singled out. So I think that these difficult conversations need to be had early. And I think communication is a key. And I also think that, moms need to explain it to their daughters so that they understand the differences, what the experience is like, the differences that they'll be experiencing, the changes, and the normalness that comes with it. So as long as they're understanding and mindful very aware early on, I don't think that they will be traumatic experiences for young girls. I think the communication is a key.
For me, I just will emphasize the fact that I would want to zero in on the incredible gift that women have been given, and that while it may not feel comfortable, there is a beauty, a very beautiful gift that was given to the woman. And also because when we are very, very young, we need to even be more into hygiene when it comes to during those times. It's very important. When you're young, it's not because you're gonna have, if you're brought up to be with good hygiene, you are, but just a little extra more to be prepared, like you said, with an extra maybe pair of necessary garments, with the wipes that might be necessary, the little things so that she will feel more confident. But I want to thank you, ladies. But before we sign off, I want Kathleen to please let us know about what she does and anything that she has that she would like to promote to empower women to also have their own. Tell us, Kathleen.
So first and foremost, I'm actually a labor doula. So I work with moms who are having babies, and that's like my first given work. And now I'm working in promotions. I'm working with artists. I'm working with different businesses. I'm actually having a lot of fun right now. It's a good time being in my 40s.
So I will, in the description, when I put this on YouTube, any low information or links that you may want me to, pass on to the listening audience will be in the description. Okay, Kathleen?
Yeah, and I just want to add, I also work for Giggles Beauty as well. So.
Yes.
Having a lot of fun there too.
You see the beauties here. And how's about you, Yvette?
My background is in education. I've been a teacher for many years, but I have a PhD in educational psychology. So my current position is as an academic success center coordinator for a local university here in Florida. So I've been in education for over 20 years. But awesome. I do have a little side gig that I do, and that's where we sell magnetic lashes. I'm a consultant for Tori Bell Cosmetics, so I do that too.
Yes, and both ladies are wearing the lashes. I am not yet. But believe me, I can't take this glue stuff anymore. I cannot wait to get rid of the glue.
Yes, no glue.
It's a whole new world.
No more glue. You need to come over to the magnetic side.
I make a mess. I mean, I've done this for years, but it's really annoying. Got to take them off a lot and all this stuff. I am, as many people know, but they may be new to this segment, former or better known as a freestyle recording artist of the 80s. But I'm also, as you can see, the host to Adelante with Arlene and the new segment, Speak It Out, Sing It Loud. So I thank you, ladies, for being on. I let everybody know earlier, you'll have to hear the beginning intro about how I met you both. And I thank the listening audience for just taking the time to tune in. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Please check out the podcast. Please know that this show, as I have said before, is not just for women's topic, but it'll be to empower, to encourage, and to get to know the person behind the entrepreneurship or behind whatever job or whatever desk they're at. So thank you again. And as I say at the end of every video, sigue adelante.
Speak it out and sing it loud.